Hi, hello everyone, it's me, Julian Greystoke, your favorite indie author. That's right. Well, you're on my channel, so you have to pretend that you like me. Here for another advice video, and this one is a little bit different. This question was asked to me on a live chat, and I wasn't really able to answer it to my satisfaction or the person who asked. So when I run into a question like that, where maybe I don't have the expertise to fully answer the question, or the answer is very subjective, I like to go and ask my viewers. So I always keep everybody anonymous just to make sure that nobody gets any flack for any of their thoughts or ideas. But it's a good idea to subscribe to my channel so you'll see when you have the opportunity to join in and share your opinion. I will be using my laptop to read the answers, but hey Julian, what was the question? Well, the question was from a writer who's just starting out and they want to write a book, but every time they sit down to do it, they're just struck with blank page paralysis. How do you even write a book? How do you even start? So many people that I've talked to are like, yeah, I'm gonna write a book someday. I have an idea for a book. But then you actually get to writing the book, and it turns out that that's not just a thing that everybody knows how to do. So this person asked, how do I start? And for me, the answer is simple. Just do it. Like Shia LaBeouf.
Don't let your dreams be dreams.
But that's not the right answer for everybody, and telling someone to just do it might be the kick in the pants that one person needs, but might be hugely unhelpful to somebody else. So let's find out what my fellow authors and viewers think. I asked this question ages ago, but there've been a bunch of videos that I had to get out in between, so let's go and check out what we thought. This first person says, I like to draw first. It doesn't work for everyone, but it works very well for me since I write comics instead of novels. But it isn't limited to drawn media. It doesn't have to be drawing. Do something creative you love, such as composing music, sculpting, collaging, etc. But do it in relation to the story, connecting in some way. This can get the creative juices flowing and even give you more plot ideas along the way. Now, right away, I can tell you that this wouldn't work for me. Well, I do enjoy drawing the characters, and that's part of my process. I could get very easily distracted with a creative endeavor that is tangential to my book but is not my book. However, if you try this and you find that it does push you into doing the thing, then this method is for you. Just be careful if you are easily distractible like me that you don't end up putting all this effort into creating the perfect playlist but then never actually write the book. That's why I usually tend to do that stuff after I've started writing, because I know I can't become distracted from actually starting the book. But like I said, just because this advice doesn't work for me doesn't mean it won't work for you. So maybe try to get those creative juices flowing in some other method and then lead that in. Let that lead you into your first writing session. But next we have write down ideas that come to mind. I keep a write-ahead document for this exact purpose. I keep it somewhat organized by character, I'll type their name over the scene that focuses on them so I can come back to it later. The Notes app in your phone is your friend. They also remind that you can go back and fix something in the story if you don't like it, so try not to stress about that part, particularly when you're doing the early drafts. Yes, I find that sometimes blank page paralysis can be caused by perfectionism and the worry that the first thing that you write down isn't going to be mwah, chef's kiss, flawless, but trust me, all of us edit, and if there's any writers out there who say that they don't edit, I don't know. Maybe there's somebody out there who never has to, but they're either lying or they probably should be editing, in my opinion. Don't come for me. That's just my opinion. This next person says, I'd probably recommend creating a doc, file, map, etc. on whatever writing software you use and take notes of all the ideas that pop into your head. Physical notebooks are fantastic for this. So many of these things involve doing a bit of plotting, and maybe you are a plotter. Maybe part of the blank page paralysis is that you're trying to pants and you're a plotter. So definitely give some of this a try. Maybe plotting out the book on paper, on the screen is the way to go. This person wisely mentions, everyone is different. Outlining could be a great tool for you to figure out how you want the story and help you stay on track, or it could kill your desire to write the story. Depending on what works for you, you either just work around the scenes that you already have and try to connect them, or you could try to find a starting point, or you could make an outline. From this point, it's really up to how your brain works best. And remember, when you're new, that you don't actually know yet how your brain works best as a writer. So try lots of things and see if something clicks, see if your brain latches onto something and you find your happy place. Don't be afraid to start your beginning as many times as are necessary as you try different methods. Or like we mentioned already, write whatever scene pleases you just to get in the habit. And that's exactly what this person recommends. Write the exciting scenes first. They don't have to be in the final book, but it's a good way to develop character and plot. Also, don't be afraid of making mistakes. I think that's going to be a common theme we're seeing from a lot of these people, is that perfectionism is your enemy, and fear of getting it wrong the first time stops a lot of people. This person agrees. Start writing where the story starts to feel exciting to you, and then you can always fill in if you need more beginning later. But sometimes starting writing where the story feels exciting to you is exactly where the story needs to start. This person agrees. Do anything you can to get the writing gears going in a way that makes you less intimidated to approach the story. They say sometimes setting yourself up with this intention of, I'm writing a book now, instead of allowing yourself to have fun, will wreck your motivation and creativity. And I 100% agree. If you sit down with the idea that you're just gonna crank out a novel, that's so intimidating. Like, thinking about it that way could 100% crush your motivation. I definitely encourage all of you to remember that this idea that you've got in your head, even if you've had it for a long time, is probably A, not going to be your best idea, and B, probably not going to be your best book. And that's okay. You can still enjoy it and get it out of your system, but the great thing about being a writer is you keep coming up with more and more amazing ideas, and maybe once you get this one out on paper, it will make room for some of those new awesome ideas. And it's okay if the very first book you came up with isn't the best thing that ever was, because there will be more, I promise. This person says, I don't recommend this, but I crash coursed it. I did NaNoWriMo. Now when I sit down to write, I tell myself I only have to make an outline. If I can make an outline, then I can have the idea on paper. Usually by the time I have a few plot points down, I want to describe what's happening, so I write a paragraph or two beneath the outline. Once the paragraphs are done, there's one of two mindsets I fall into. Either I'm happy to keep going because I've got the ball rolling, or I feel like I'm pulling teeth and I stop. So maybe you need like an extra little push. I know a lot of writers in my life who really only write during NaNoWriMo, and if that is what makes them happy, then that's what makes them happy. That's as much as they're able or want to write. So maybe having some kind of challenge will like push you to keep going and just get those words out. And this person kind of has a variation on plotting where they start to plot and then just kind of like, if they're feeling it, they fall into the story. So maybe give that a try. Start plotting and see if maybe you just want to write the scene instead of plotting it out, and see what happens from there. This person says, sometimes I write the idea down on a blank page rather than any story. Sometimes I add it, sometimes I close it, but usually when I come back, I have something to write down, even if it's just more ideas. So once again, the taking notes physically, instead of just planning everything out in your brain, is helpful to a lot of people. This person again recommends trying plotting, whatever form that takes, but mostly writing down the basic summary and like knowing the beats beforehand and having them down physically is helpful for a lot of people. Not me, but a lot of people. So like maybe you're one of those people. But they also say, another word of advice, write as if you are the only reader. That way you don't pressure yourself and you don't get bogged down in what people will think. You can't please everyone, so at least please yourself. 100%. Plus, readers can tell when someone really liked writing something versus someone who is trying to make something marketable. Yes, they can. Readers can tell. And my readers can tell. I've written stuff that I wasn't enthusiastic about, and then stuff I was enthusiastic about, and my readers have been like, yeah, we could tell you weren't into that. We could tell you're into this though. So write as though you are your only audience, because you can go back and read it whatever you want. It's making you happy. That's the most important place to start. And like we said, you can always edit it later. If you're worried about its marketability, then you can fix it later, but right now, you're just trying to get those words on the page, so write it for you.
See, you can't please everyone, so you got to please yourself.
This person says, I actually spend a lot of time letting myself daydream all the craziest, most absurd versions of the idea I have, usually for a couple of days. And when I sit down, I have a bunch of silly in my head, and I can pick an approximate concept and start trying to write vaguely between versions of that. As a pantser, it works really, really well for me. This is actually a pretty good description of how I do it, I'll be honest. Because once the writing gets started, my subconscious takes over. If the person is trying to start as a plotter, they should be able to do something similar with creating an outline, I'd assume. So yeah, this is like a pretty fair description of how I do it as well, because I don't go in most of the time completely blind without any kind of plan, but my plan is like a daydreamy plan. It's like a loosey-goosey plan. It's like things that I've been throwing around in my head for a while, and I've actually gotten pretty good of like not allowing myself to daydream too much about ideas that I can't get to right now, so I kind of put them on the daydreaming back burner so I can focus on the story at hand. And then when I'm done with the story at hand, I'm gonna be like, give myself permission. Okay, you can start daydreaming about that new idea now. And before I know it, I'm writing the new idea. This person also advises that you write stuff down, you keep a notebook on you and you write stuff down. I carry a small pocketbook wherever I go for this exact reason, usually inside my coat or bag. Anything comes to mind or anything inspires an idea, then I jot it down in the book. After filling several pages of the pocketbook, I then type them into a document, which can sometimes be a challenge if I've woken up in the middle of the night and scribbled something barely legible. Yeah, how many of us have been there, right? You're like, oh my gosh, idea, and then you like grab the nearest piece of paper and write it down, and the next morning you're like, what? They also mention that the white page itself can be the intimidating part, the white page of doom. So if you are taking notes and you're just getting stuff down on the page, it can help eliminate that feeling of just staring at a blank page, that blank page syndrome. So even if it's not good, the words on the page will kind of reassure you that you've already written something so you can keep going. The page isn't blank anymore. This person says, usually with new ideas, I have a specific scene in mind, usually something that's cool and fun, so often I will just start writing that scene. Then I start working backwards from that scene. Usually the scene is very different or sometimes even omitted from the story by the end of it, but I started with the very thing I feel passionate about in the moment. And then the idea and story grows naturally from that. That's a really fun way to do it. I totally think that trying out that method could work for a lot of people. Because it's all about enthusiasm. If you're sitting there staring at the blank screen, it's really difficult to build up that enthusiasm, so you gotta get hyped. This person points out that the first time I wrote a complete story, I had the advantage of being 14 and hating school. Yeah, mood. I wrote what I consider my first complete novel when I was 13, so like, when you're younger, like, it's so much easier to just fall into a story, it seems like, and get lost in that escapist world. And almost when you're younger, you have this belief in yourself that as adults we've kind of learned to tamp down. Like, when I was 13, I was certain that I was writing the most amazing novel in the world and no one could dissuade me from that. And then slowly as time went on, I was more able to see what made a good book and could see that my first novel was garbage, actually. I'm not mad about it. I'm not disappointed in it. But when I was 13, I thought it was so good. Shout out to all of the adults who I made read that version and like they had to grit their teeth and tell me, yeah, there are some good elements in here, but I was like, this is gonna be published someday. My God. So this is a tangent, but I think when you're younger, you can have that confidence that's so hard to grasp when you're an adult because it's kind of been beaten out of you. But yes, they say that now focusing has become harder. Usually I go into my writing session with a pretty good idea of the scene I'm going to be writing, the general outlines of what's going to happen next, and at least some notion of the ending, aka where all of this is heading. Too much outlining and I check out. No idea at all, I will just flail around. So you have to find that right calibration of outlining that works for you. As a general idea, if something's not working, try something else. Yes. Plotting doesn't work for you, try pantsing, and vice versa. Treat it like an experiment. 100% agree. Gotta find what works for you. This person recommends bullet points because it's quick and easier to do for me. Someone like me has a short attention span, so I want to get it down as quick as possible and may lose interest. So obviously you're going to have to go back in and flesh out those bullet points, but that may be a good way for you to plot if you want to try plotting. This person says, I let the idea form in my mind for a week or two, not letting myself write it right away until I'm sufficiently excited. Personally, I like to listen to songs and think of scenarios that could happen like a TV show. All of these fun scenes to look forward to propel me until I get a better idea of what I want to do. If I get it out of my system that way, it was just a plot bunny, I let it go. But if I'm really happy and I want to continue, I do. Yeah, that's a great way to do it. And I actually do a little bit of that too, where you're like imagining scenes, playing out like a movie. Usually there's a song involved that can like trigger it. So that's a great way to do it. And then you can kind of tell how excited you are about this thing, or whether listening to a song and fantasizing about it makes it go away and you're done and you're like, okay, well, I guess that plot point wasn't as important as I thought it was. This person says, I brain dump everything that comes to mind, and if there are vague plot points, I try to put them together in order and write toward the next point. So it's kind of the bridging technique where you kind of know some basic plot points and you bridge. I do that a little bit. It's exciting to have a goal to work toward, and you already have the excitement of those scenes you know you enjoy to get to. Yeah, that's a big motivator for me. If I'm writing along and I have to write in order personally, and I'm not enjoying the scene that I'm in, but I know I have a scene that I'm super excited about coming up, that can get me really hyped to keep going. Right, this person says, write one-shots and orphan scenes. Orphan being like independent from other scenes and even the plot. Even if they never show up in the final draft, or even the first draft. They let you get a feel for the characters and settings and just let loose and not worry if it works or not. Yeah. This person says, in my own writing I noticed I have trouble starting on a computer, so I just write by hand. It's the roughest, most chaotic draft. The computer versions come later. I am not a by hand writer. I cannot do it. Just like, I don't have the patience for it. My brain moves too fast. It took until my 20s that my typing hands could keep up with the speed at which my brain was going. So often my hands just couldn't keep up, and I'm like, come on, I need more speed. So now I type pretty fast. And writing it by hand on a piece of paper is way too slow. It makes me want to chew off my own leg. It's too slow. But maybe that would work for you. Maybe having that tactile sense, maybe being forced to slow down would actually help you get those words on the page. And yeah, a piece of paper can definitely be less threatening than that blank screen staring accusatorially at you, being like, why haven't you filled me up with words yet? This person says when they first started, they pulled out a sketchbook and started doodling out characters and landscapes to help sort things out. Sort of similar to the person above who mentioned that like drawing or doing some other form of artistic work get them into the story. This is interesting. I like to switch places and put myself in the shoes of the reader of my book. What kind of first page or opening would I want to see if I were reading my book? What would draw me in? These are the questions I'm asking myself when I'm struggling. So this is a little bit different of a take. You know, we already talked about write for yourself, but you could also write from the point of view of like, if I had picked up this book, where would I want it to start? What would be the most engaging thing that could get me hooked? This person recommends talk to text your ideas when they come to you if you can. I usually walk around like I'm talking on the phone. And I've always thought about trying to do like talk to text, but I feel like my diction is too poor, but maybe that would work. And the last person says sangria. I do not drink at all. I have heard that alcohol helps some people. I personally can't imagine that it would do anything for me, but maybe it would help you feel less nervous. Like on a first date with your book, you're out for the very first time, maybe you want to have a drink. Just to like calm yourself down. And you can always edit later. So those were all of the comments. I hope that some of them were helpful. If you're out there, person who asked this question, I hope that these answers are more helpful than my original answer. Just do it. But of course, keep in mind that I wrote that first novel when I was 13, and as we talked about, I felt pretty confident at 13 that what I was writing was fucking genius. But sometimes I wish I could bottle some of that confidence that I had as a 13-year-old. Just a little, just enough. Thanks so much everyone for commenting and for watching this video. If you like, you can purchase my books. They're available now on Amazon with a new one coming out very soon. But check them out if you want to see my writing for yourself. Also check out my Ko-fi, my Patreon. I might have a Fiverr up by now. If you're looking for like editing services from me.
Alright, so I legitimately got distracted and like didn't finish ending this video, so this is the ending. Don't forget to also check out my Patreon, I guess, if I didn't already say that. But also, just like randomly, apropos of nothing, I decided that y'all love our pets so much that I would make them an Amazon wish list in case any of you wanted to pop over there and see what any of their wishes are. Obviously, there's absolutely no obligation for anybody to go look at the list, and especially not to buy them anything. But if you wanted to, it's available. Wanted to buy them some stuff. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. Bye.
Jimmy, Jim.
I'm not Jimmy Jim. He's Jimmy Jim.
Actually, I don't think we have anyone here named Jim. But we do have several patrons. Patrons like Ingrid, Roma, Pansing Pony, Julius the Nice Dragon, Haley, Sam, Kiara, Kihokaro, Mooney, Maria, Kirsten, Bear, Jojo Bookish, Robin, Ursula, Caitlin, Jessica, KJ, Lafone, Amanda, Unicorn Jenny, Celia, Neon NVM, Alyssa, Rita, Deborah, Afra, Melissa, Swamp Goblin Waifu, Sophia, Merween, Kit, Hidden Glade, Light Julie, Belle, Patrick, Anne Sophie, Callison, Ray, Shelby, Zaire, Jesper, Rennie, Scribbling Cat, Savvy, Jenny, Amanda, Lisa, and Sarah.
And this is supposed to be a kids' movie.
Do it! Just do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday, you said tomorrow. So just do it! Make your dreams come true! Just do it!